Hello students, welcome back to the biology class. If you remember, we were discussing the chapter number 1, that is the living world, and this is the third class of the chapter. And in today's class I'll discuss about the topic taxonomy. So students, if you remember, I was saying that since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms at a time, it is very necessary to devise some means to make it possible. And this process is called classification, which makes the study of all the species of organism. So what is classification? Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characteristics. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate them with the certain characters with the organism in that group. So, what image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of Alsatians, we know that they are what we are talking about. Now, see students, the scientific terms for all these categories that we use to recognize organism is called taxa. And based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. And this process of classification is thus based on characteristics of living organism. And these characteristics can be external, internal structure, cell structure, development, ecological information, which forms the basis of modern taxonomy. Now, human beings are always interested to know the different organisms and the types and the diversity along their relationship with each other. It is not just an isolated study. So, the branch of science which deals with classification of organisms based on their diversities and relationships among them is known as systematics. Now, students, this classification actually first needs the different taxa to be arranged in such a way that the organisms can be grouped conveniently. Thus, classification is not a single step process and involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the category is the part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic categories, and all the categories together constitute what is called a taxonomic hierarchy. So, definition wise, it is the arrangement of various taxas of classification. Now, taxonomical study of all these organisms will lead to the development of categories such as kingdom, phylum, division, class, order, family, genus, species. The lowest categories being the species and the highest category being the kingdom. So, let us see all these categories one by one. Now, what are species? So, species are the most fundamental group of individuals having fundamental similarity and successful reproduction taking place among themselves. So groups of individuals which can reproduce freely in nature forms the member of a single species. And distinct morphological differences exist between very two closely related species. For example, if you see your tiger, lion, they both belong to the same genus, that is Panthera, but fine difference exists between them which leads them to be placed in two different species. So the tiger is in the group of Panthera tigris and lions are in the group of Panthera leo. And then you have the leopard, Panthera pardus. That also belongs to the same group. Similarly, you have Solanum tuberosum, the potato, and Solanum nigrum. So Solanum and Panthera here denotes the genus name, and the tuberosum, nigrum, leo, tigris, they denote the species name. So the next group is genus. What is genus? They are the aggregates of closely related species. So group of related species with more characteristics in common than the species of other genera. So if we see leo, pardus, tigris, they though are different from each other morphologically, distinct difference exists between them. But if you see them very closely, you will find a lot of similarities between them. And these similarities led them to be classified under the same genus, that is Panthera. The same for potato and the brinjal. Potato is of the group Tuberosum and brinjal Melongena. So Melongena and Tuberosum, they both are in the genus Solanum because they show a lot of similarities which led them to be put in a single genus, but fine differences occurs which led them to be put in different species. So the next group is family. So it is the group of related genera with less number of similarities. So as we are moving up, the similarities between the groups are decreasing and the dissimilarities are increasing. Yet they have many features in common. That is, on the basis of the vegetative and the reproductive feature, they are put in the same family. Like you have the Solanaceae family, which includes the genus Solanum, Petunia and Dhatura. So it is the Felidae family which includes your genus Panthera and that of Felis. So Felis domestica is your cat, and we often say Billy is the Mossy of tiger. So there exists some similarities between the cats and the tiger or Panthera genus, which leads them to be classified under a single family. So the assemblage of families which exhibit few similar characteristics in common, they are placed under order. Thus, similar characteristics will be less in number, less from that of the family. Animals family like Felidae and Canidae, they belong to the order Carnivora. The next higher class is your class. So it includes all related orders having few similar characteristics, like the class Mammalia, which includes the order Primata and Carnivora. The Dicotyledonea class includes order Polynomials and the Sapinidales. So they represent fewer characteristics in common from their previous taxa. The next taxa is your phylum or division. Phylum in case of animals and division in case of plants. We do not say phylum for plants or division for animals. So it includes classes with few similarities. The phylum Chordata includes class fish, amphibia, reptilia, aves, mammals due to the common feature that is presence of the notochord and the dorsal hollow neural system. So all the classes under Chordata will be having the notochord. The next is, if you see in case of plant, that is Angiospermae, which includes the dicotyledonate class and the monocotyledonate class. So in this way, the taxas are organized. And as I said, the kingdom is the highest taxa. It is the highest category of taxonomy. Like we have the kingdom Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, then you have Protista, Monera. So all the organisms, if you see, are classified into just 5 kingdoms, because all the members of this particular kingdom have few characteristics in common, but they may have very many dissimilarities, which lead to the further taxonomical category. Now students, there are various methods or aids which help in studying these taxonomy. So this taxonomic studies of various species of plants, animals, other organisms require correct classification and identification. So there are various methods which help the process, which help us to study them properly. And what are they? They are herbarium, botanical museum, gardens, museums, zoological park. Just let us see them one by one. What is herbarium? Herbarium is nothing but a storehouse of collected specimens that are dried, pressed and preserved in sheets. You have made that in your junior classes in the form of projects. What you did, you took the stems and the leaves of various plants, and what you did, you dried them and then pressed them in a piece of paper and covered it with cellophane paper. In higher class, what you'll do, you'll do the same thing, but you will be writing the proper description on the herbarium sheet. The label and the date and the place of collection, their English, local and botanical names, the family and the collector's name. So it is a quick referral system for the taxonomic studies. The next is botanical garden. All of you must have visited the botanical garden in Shivpur. So what's there? There you will find specialized garden having collection of huge number of living specimens. So the plants are grown there for the identification purpose, and they are labeled with botanic, the scientific name and the family. So you'll see a tag over each plant, each tree there, giving their scientific as well as local name. The museums, the next one, have collections of preserved plants and animal specimens. For study and reference. They may be set up in educational institutes. So even if you come to a biological laboratory in the school, what you'll find? You'll find many specimens preserved there in the formaldehyde solution. So in a way that sets up a small version of a museum. So what do you see there? The specimens are preserved in containers and jars with preservative solutions. So the insects are kept in the insect boxes by killing them, pinning them. The large animals are stuffed and preserved. So even you will find a skeleton out there for the study of anatomical structure, as we have in our laboratory. Then you have the zoological park. There's hardly anyone who has not visited the Alipur Zoo. So what do you find there? They are the places where the wild animals are kept and protected under human care. And what do you learn about it from there? You learn about the food habits, the behavior, the conditions that are needed for their growth and reproduction. So such conditions are provided to them. But the most important taxonomical aid here is key. A taxonomical key. So what is a taxonomical key? It is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. So how do we find out the similarities and dissimilarities in them? By a question based on contrasting character. And they are generally in pair, which we call couplet. That represents a choice between two opposite options, accepting one and the rejecting other. And each statement of the key forms a lead. So separate taxonomical keys for the family, genus, species are developed for the identification. And they are completely analytical in nature. So you see, here I have given an example of taxonomical key. So what is this taxonomical key? See here, a taxonomical key, as I said, is a device that the biologists use to figure out unknown organisms, what they actually are. The key is made up of so that you answer a series of questions about the characteristic and the answer is narrowed down. So if you get an organism, say, the first question you ask, does it have a dry skin? So if it is no, it will be have a salamander. If you get the answer yes, then you will ask the next question. Does it have hair? If its answer is no, then it will be a lizard, and if yes, then you'll ask the next question to narrow it down. Even for the no answer, you can narrow it down further. But I'm just showing one side of the key. So next you will ask whether they have opposite thumbs or not. So if they have opposite thumbs, then you'll ask the next question. Is it bipedal? So if it's bipedal, then it will be, if the answer is yes, it will be humans, and if answer is no, it will be a gorilla or something like that. For that, you need to ask more taxonomical key question or couplet to get to a particular conclusion. So on the basis of a choice between two options, we narrow our choices and we come to a conclusion to find out what the organism is based on their characteristics. Thank you, students. This is all about this particular chapter.